Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down everything that happened in the NFL, including Deshaun Massage Watson and Aaron Washed Up Rodgers. And you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room. G Money Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
Oh man, Tanner, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty well. Had a very nice weekend. Went out and touched some grass. Went to a little fall festival, pumpkin picking type deal with the lady. Got lost in a corn maze, took a hayride, all the fun stuff. Sat around, watched some football with some friends, played some games. We ordered some food. Had a really nice time. So nothing that you would buy a postcard for necessarily, but still one of those really solid weekends. I feel really good.
You can't say you touched grass after I say Deshaun Massage Watson. Can't use the word touched in that situation.
Okay. Well, I don't know what the expression is. I went out and I got some sunlight. How about that?
There you go. You can't touched and Deshaun Massage Watson back-to-back sentences. You can't do it. Anyways, this is Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. We have a lot of good storylines this weekend in the NFL that we're going to recap, and we have a lot to talk about. But before we do that, Grant, tell them why they need to go to WSN.com and check it out.
Well, this is a crazy year in the NFL. There are upsets left, right, and center. So if you need to see betting trends, you want to know which teams to bet on, Tanner and I, along with a bunch of other people on a great team, we are putting out previews of games, our best bets for the week, statistical analysis, everything that could make you a better. It's going to be over there on WSN.com. You're also going to get a bunch of promo codes, which makes sports betting a more profitable and exciting experience. So WSN.com, that is the place to be.
Definitely. So we can just go through the order of how these games happened. Jets versus Vikings. The Vikings won 23-17. If New York had any ounce of offense, they would have won this game. The Jets defense was fantastic. Aaron Rodgers had a pick six. He had 2 other interceptions, so 3 on the day. He was horrendous. And it's funny too, because the New York Jets, even with Aaron Rodgers, have the same exact issue that they had over the past few seasons with Zach Wilson. They can't score. And that is an issue because their defense is so good.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was horrible in this game. This is what is expected by me, but if you didn't think he was going to be washed up, this is why you should be concerned. He looked scared. He looked deer in headlights. He looked immobile. Once he felt pressure, he was just getting the ball out wherever he could. And that's not Aaron Rodgers. That's not what great quarterbacks do. So it's the fact that not only did he look normal, but he looked vulnerable. That's the scary part. And maybe you can say it's Brian Flores' defense, right? That's what they did to Brock Purdy. That's what they did to CJ Stroud. And I'm willing to hear that argument. But this is the thing. The Jets are 2-3. They're 2-3, and look at some of their upcoming games. You've got the Bills, a Bills team that's lost 2 in a row. They're going to be very pissed. They're going to want to go out and get a win. You're at the Steelers. Not that Pittsburgh's a great team, but they've got a solid defense, and those boys with TJ Watt are going to come after you. Then you've got the Texans right after that. Could the Jets be 2-6? It's on the board, absolutely. And at that point, with what we know about Aaron Rodgers' character and him as a person, he's going to throw whoever he can under the bus. He's going to fold on the season. When your leader folds, the rest of the team is going to fold, and now it's just a snowball effect. So this team really, really needs to win 2-3 games in a row, or else they're headed on a downward spiral.
There were a few things that concern me about this one. The inability to run the football as well, because as uncomfortable as Aaron Rodgers looked, every quarterback is going to be better with time in a run game. And the Jets just don't have that right now. Breece Hall had 9 for 23 yesterday. And also, I don't think the Vikings are as good as people think they are. Again, they should have lost this football game. Sam Darnold was not great. He didn't look comfortable. The Jets defense was fantastic. Just because the Vikings are undefeated does not mean they are all that. And I think yesterday's game revealed that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree with you because Sam Darnold, especially in the first half, looked really bad. Now, he had a couple of big throws. I remember one to Justin Jefferson in the second half, and it kind of made it look a little bit better than it was. Because we always talk about in sports, it's about going out and winning the games. And Sam Darnold did enough down the stretch to help his team secure the victory there. But no, the Jets did not look good going into the season. I said that the Jets were going to miss the playoffs. I got a lot of hate for that. I also had to take that it was more likely Aaron Rodgers looks like a bottom half quarterback than a top half quarterback. And granted, I think he played a great game before he played a horrible game, but I do feel like if you take out that week 3 performance, he's not been good at all this season. And I don't understand what the Jets were thinking when they told themselves or tried to convince their fans that they were in Super Bowl mode. And really, if you want to look at what happened on Sunday, some of the biggest culprits in the Jets' decline were their offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers himself, and Alan Lazard dropped a bunch of passes. And all 3 of those guys, they all come back to Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers wanted them to have Lazard. That's one of his friends. Okay. Nathaniel Hackett was his whatever. He is his poker buddy. So yeah, sure, he could be the offensive coordinator. All of that rests at Rodgers' feet.
Yeah, no, 100%. And another scary thing too, like Garrett Wilson was targeted 22 times in the game. I don't care how good you are as a receiver. If you're targeting one guy 22 times, that's a problem because you have no other options and no other things to go to in your offense. So just a lot to be concerned about for the Jets. I think it's really funny though how New York fans think that the Jets were back just because they beat the Patriots in a primetime game. Like the Patriots are terrible. Like if you think you were back after that, that's insane. So it's going to be a long season for the Jets. There's a lot of over win totals that have already died for them because they're not going to figure it out anytime soon.
No, I agree. And again, 2 losses in a row, lost to the Broncos at home. That's a horrible loss. And now the Vikings were hot, but like we said on last week's show, if you're going to disrupt a team's momentum, flying to England to play them, that's how you do it. You stop the momentum they have. And you saw that because, again, Darnold didn't look good. The Vikings were out of sync, and the Jets really had many chances to go win that game, and Aaron Rodgers and company just didn't do it.
Nope, they did not. Anyways, Grant, we have Ravens, Bengals, Baltimore won 41-38. This is a game where I bet you could have got Baltimore for plus 2,000 on the money line at one point because the Bengals had the game locked up down the stretch. They were up by 10 late. They had every chance to run the clock out. They had every chance to win in overtime, just didn't get it done. The defense is bad for the Bengals. We know that. However, Joe Burrow is that guy, 392 passing yards yesterday. He's playing some of the best football of his career right now. He is 6th in passing yards in the NFL. He's 1st in passing touchdowns, and he has the 2nd best QBR in the league. So this is not on Joe Burrow. Nobody blame Joe Burrow. The Bengals need to figure out their defense. If they do that, they have a legit quarterback.
At 1-4, though, the season's already over, in my opinion. I don't understand how you're going to get into the playoffs at 1-4. The division title is out of the question. It's going to have to be through the wild card. And you look around the conference, it's a tough AFC. Teams are going to beat up on one another. And with the way that this defense is playing, I just don't see how you're going to give yourselves a chance. Granted, you were going against the Ravens, who have the best rushing attack in the league, and Lamar Jackson is playing significantly better than he did last year, and he won the MVP last year. I want to make sure we give Lamar his flowers. But with this defense being the way it is, regardless of who the opponent is, I don't see how they're going to give Joe Burrow enough support for them to win games to come back and make it to the playoffs.
I don't either. And it's weird because the defense has always been – the offense has been the stronger part of the Cincinnati Bengals for years, but the defense has never been as bad as they are. They can't defend anyone right now. When you get a 10-point lead late in a football game, you need to be able to finish, and they just can't do it. And you're wasting really good football from Joe Burrow. And I think the one positive thing is, though, people are realizing it's the defense. Early on, like even when Jayden beat Joe in that primetime game, people were like, oh, Joe got outplayed by Jayden Daniels. Burrow played great. He's been playing great. But the defense isn't getting it done right now. So, yeah, they're probably cooked. They are still picked 6 to win the AFC, which makes sense because they're significantly better than the Steelers, Dolphins, Colts, Chargers, Broncos, Jags, and you name it. They're definitely better than the Jets, too. The Jets just have the easier route right now through the AFC East than the Bengals do through the AFC North.
At the same time, though, looking at some Super Bowl futures, according to FanDuel, Cincinnati is plus 3,400 to win the Super Bowl. That's tied with that's behind the Falcons. The Falcons are at plus 2,800. That's tied with the Seahawks, and that's barely ahead of the Commanders. So you can put them where you want in the AFC, but if you look on over at the NFC, it's going into the year, if I told you the Bengals are going to be grouped with the Falcons, Seahawks, and Commanders, it's not something you would have expected.
No. I wonder if they're going to give up. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like there's some the whole T. Higgins situation. He's playing on the franchise tag. Jamar Chase is unhappy that he doesn't have his contract. I think they're more likely to give up than if they paid their guys or if they're all bought in. I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and quit, and I'm not saying there are locker room issues, but at 1-4, knowing that everything's not 100% where it should be to get the best out of everybody, I think it's possible.
Yeah, no, I do too as well.
Zach Taylor's been there, 6 years now? Going back to the game against Baltimore, Zach Taylor needs to be under the microscope because the end of game management there, you get to overtime, Baltimore wins the toss, they get the kick, they're in the driver's seat, they fumble on their own side of the field. You pick it up, you get the ball from about the 40-yard line, and then you run it up the middle 3 straight plays. You barely gain any yards. Joe Burrow is playing one of the best games of his career. I believe that was his first game with 5 touchdowns. I know he threw an interception right at the end of regulation, but he's still cooking. Let him throw the ball. You ran it up the middle for basically no gain, and you treated a 53, 55-yard field goal as if it was a guarantee. Like that was a chip shot, and there was no doubt about it. Your kicker was going to make it. And of course, he goes out there and he misses it, and that leads to the Ravens being able to win the game. I just don't get why you wouldn't throw the ball once, twice. I would prefer 3 passes than 3 runs in that situation.
Yeah, be aggressive because a 55-yard field goal is it's a chip shot, but it's not a chip shot. It's one that you expect a guy to make, but they're not going to make it every single time. It's a lot harder than a 40-yard field goal or a 35-yard field goal. So put yourself in a position to win. Very disappointing game for the Bengals, but you know what? At least Joe Burrow's playing well. At least because people would be cooking him if he wasn't. And the fact that he's playing well is a positive sign for this team moving forward. They know they got to go out and get defenders in the draft and in free agency.
I do wonder what's going to happen, though, because T. Higgins is gone. They just, the way their contracts work out, they're not going to be able to pay him. Jamar Chase is going to want, $35 million plus per year. Are they going to do that? They should, but this is a historically cheap franchise. So what happens with that? What impact does that have on Burrow? This could turn out to be a very tough offseason for them.
Yeah, I think they'll pay Jamar Chase. I think you have to, and that's just the direction the league's going in. You can't not pay him. Burrow wants him. If Burrow wants him, you're going to get him. And you need to keep your franchise quarterback happy.
They should. It's just I don't have much confidence in how this team is run.
Yep. All right, Grant. Well, a team that has less confidence and less faith in how it's run is the Cleveland Browns than the Cincinnati Bengals. There's no doubt about it. You got Deshaun Watson. Probably we're going to say this is the worst contract in the history of professional sports. One of probably not the worst in professional sports, but it's up there. The man is giving you no production.
I think some baseball ones where, you give a pitcher a bunch of money and then you can't play, like the Steven Strasburg one, I think is still really bad just because they gave him the huge contract and his career was basically over.
I disagree, though. Can I disagree with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Because at least with Steven Strasburg, he did something for your franchise. Literally, you just paid Deshaun Watson to give us so he could pay his legal fees.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like, Strasburg is bad. Don't get me wrong. It's a terrible contract. But at least you paid a guy who, did a lot for your franchise.
Yeah, they say in just any world, whether it's, music, the music business or whatever, they say they pay you for what you're going to do, not what you have done, which I guess using the Strasburg example, it was backwards, but you're right. He did do something for the franchise. Deshaun didn't in the past, and he's not going to in the future.
No. So when does Kevin Stefanski change quarterbacks? Because he defended him after and said, we're not changing quarterbacks, but this man literally quit on him mid-game yesterday. He can't play. When you get beat by the Commanders, nothing against the Commanders, Grant. They're surging. They're playing really good football, but you have a good defense. You're the Cleveland Browns. You're known for playing good defense. If you have any ounce of offense, you're probably competitive in that game, and you just don't have it.
Yeah, going into this week, I said I kind of hated some of the quote-unquote obvious bets. One of the bets I thought was obvious was the Commanders at -3. This was the first time in 25 years that people have liked the Commanders. The whole world was betting Commanders -3. I was like, are we forgetting this is Jayden Daniels, a rookie, going against Myles Garrett in this defense, and Cleveland can just run the ball. All they have to do, run the ball a little, control the clock. They have a really good chance to win that game. And they just couldn't do anything. And I'm not saying that Deshaun got a lot of support from the run game and the play calling and yada, yada, because they couldn't do a whole lot. The offensive line especially was very bad. But I saw him miss a lot of throws, a lot of open guys. He airmailed Amari Cooper a couple of times. He missed Jerry Jeudy on a deep shot. They were at least trying to throw the ball down the field, but he couldn't connect with his receivers. Frankie Louvu had one of the weirdest recoveries that I've ever seen. Deshaun backed up in the pocket, climbed the pocket, tried to scramble, ran into somebody, turned around, and when he turned around, Bobby Wagner kind of like Peanut Tillman punched the ball out, but it went straight into Frankie Louvu's arms. It looked like an interception almost. But he can't do anything right. He can't. And I don't think Cleveland is the best place for a quarterback in the world, but I also saw what Joe Flacco did. I know that they have Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper and David Njoku. This is enough to put something on tape, and he's not doing it.
I saw a clip on Twitter. I don't know if it was yesterday or not. I think it was from yesterday. I don't think it was a practice clip, but like David Njoku basically came out and like they were interviewing after the game and it was in the locker room and he was like, I need to be here for my teammates and play. And like you heard just a bunch of laughing and stuff after. I don't know if it was from yesterday, but if it was, that's concerning because the locker room's totally lost. And that's what it seems like right now.
Was it the one where he's like he's in front of all the cameras with his shirt off and the short shorts and
the pants? He's just got his pants on.
It was during the week of practice, like Wednesday or something.
That's what I expected. But I think the locker room's lost in general. When you look at their effort and how they're playing, there's too much talent on the defense. And I know that the offense didn't help them out, but there's too much talent to give up 34 points to a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and they started the game hot, and that's what they should do. This is Jim Schwartz. I don't know if you saw the stat, but Jim Schwartz had not lost to a rookie quarterback since 2016. It was either a 2/3 or he won 2/3 or 3/4 of his game against rookie quarterbacks. And the first two drives, they did make Jayden Daniels look like a rookie because he is. It was one of the quickest 3-and-outs you'll ever see to start the game. And then he ended up throwing a pick. He had a great play, but he threw a pick at the goal line on the second drive. And things were going the way they should. Cleveland had the momentum, and they just could not move the ball. And Washington's defense is playing better of the last 2 weeks. But during the first 3 weeks, this was the worst defense in NFL history. So I don't care how much they've improved. I don't think they've improved to the point that they are a top 10 defense or anything like that. And when your defense is giving you 3-and-outs, when they're forcing turnovers, you're on the road, it is the offense's responsibility to at least go get a field goal, go get on the board. And they couldn't even get a first down.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Bad game for the Browns. Stefanski's probably got to go, I would think, at some point.
He just won Coach of the Year last year, so I don't think this is his fault though. This is one of those situations where everybody in the world knows that Deshaun is the problem. Stefanski knows it, the front office knows it, but they also know what are you gonna do if you cut him? You owe him like $80 million. That's a third of your cap for somebody who's not playing for you. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and how long would they be under that cap hit for?
I think it's another 2 years. I don't know if you've seen this. Supposedly, the Browns' lawyers are doing stuff behind the scenes to figure out if there's a way that they can cut him this offseason and not have to pay him. They're looking for loopholes or something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, again, and we know why it was all guaranteed. A lot of it had to go to legal fees. But it's still a crazy contract. Deshaun Watson's agent, whoever that is, they're an MVP. They're a phenomenal agent because if you're getting him guaranteed money, that's crazy. Are we ready to move on, Grant, to are we final topic of the show right now?
We might be. I don't know. What do you think happens with Deshaun? Do they bench him? Do they cut him? Do you let him play it out?
I'm not in the front office, so financially, like the highest paid player is by default number one on the depth chart. Like that's just how the game goes. I think they would be better with Jameis Winston. I think if you put Jameis in there, the people would start playing for him a little bit. And when Jameis is the dude giving the pump up speeches, like that's not a problem, but like you never see Deshaun in the middle.
It's a problem.
Well, that's just who Jameis is too, number one. But if you don't have the same respect for your starting quarterback as you do for Jameis, like there is a problem there. Like again, if you had Tom Brady and Jameis on the same team and Jameis wanted to give the pump up speech, I think that's fine because Tom Brady's going to give one too. But if Jameis wants to go fire the boys up, that's fine. He knows his place as a backup quarterback.
I guess, but I think it's what you said. It's the respect factor. And I actually I was thinking this exact same thing you're saying. I was thinking this during the game yesterday. And I was thinking, how would it look if, I guess you're right that if the backup does a pump up speech and then the starter does it, that's fine. But if it's only the backup, if the backup is the one pumping the team up and then he doesn't play and the team goes out and they're not fighting for the starter, what does that say? It shows you where the team is at. And also, I guess going back to Stefanski, because he said Jameis, and this reminded me, on Cleveland's, I think it was their first drive of the game, they went for it on 4th down, right around the 50-yard line. They brought in Jameis for the 4th down, and he handed it off, and then he went off the field. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why even bring him in there. The only thing, I guess, is he's taller than Deshaun. So maybe you're thinking of faking a quarterback sneak somehow, but Deshaun's more mobile than Jameis. I don't think they know what to do at the quarterback situation. I think that play call kind of exemplified that.
I mean, Jameis is good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for sure. He's a great backup quarterback because I think he embraces that role and he knows his place, but he's good enough to start somewhere. Not saying it's going to be a top 20 team, but he's good enough to be a starting quarterback for Carolina or, Cleveland right now, or how many other places? Where would he start at? Arizona, probably not over, I think. Vegas, yes, 100%. New York, I guess Daniel Jones is playing okay right now. I put him above Derek Carr. I think he can make all the throws just like Derek Carr. He's better than Snoop Huntley for the Dolphins. He's probably better than Jacoby Brissett for the Patriots. There's a lot of places he could play right now.
I don't think you're wrong. It's just a situation where the Browns feel handcuffed because of the contract. If you move that guy to your bench, then you're it's a bad look for your front office, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Sean McDermott is a terrible play game manager. I don't know why they just didn't run the ball, play defense, and try to go to overtime. It didn't really make sense to me that they were just chucking the ball down the field.
Same thing with the Zach Taylor situation where you're acting like it's a guarantee that you make a 53-yard field goal. When you get the ball on your own 1-yard line and there's 32 seconds left and you should run the clock out and get to overtime, your quarterback completed 30% of his passes in this game. Josh Allen was 9 for 30. So it's not like how I was saying the Bengals should have thrown the ball because Burrow was hot. Josh Allen was ice cold. In fact, this is the worst performance of his career based on completion percentage. It's one of the worst games in NFL history based on completion percentage. You throw it 3 straight times from your own 1-yard line. What's the net average of a punt? I don't know if you know the actual number. Can we just agree it's about 50 yards after return and everything?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, so 50 yards. So if you're on your 1-yard line and you don't complete a pass and you throw it 3 times so you're not running it, put that 50 yards on the punt, Houston gets it from their own 49, that's 1 pass away from being in field goal range. Oh, newsflash, that is exactly what happened in this game. They went bombs away looking for the deep pass, 3 plays in a row from their 1, completed none of them, punted to Houston. Houston needs 1 completion. They get that, and they kick the game-winning field goal. Just baffling late game clock management.
Yeah, I mean, at least if you run the ball 3 times, you're forcing them to use their timeouts, number 1. And that you just get, because you gave them the ball back with all their timeouts, I believe. They had 3 at the time, right?
Yep.
So, run the ball, make them make the decision. They might not even use their timeouts. They may not. Or if you get a first down on the ground, you can just send it right to overtime. And they had to claw their way back into the game. So the fact that that's how they blew it in the end was just very surprising. That's McDermott. I think McDermott's a decent head coach. I think he's okay. I don't think he's the greatest head coach in the world. I think there's situations where he doesn't manage the game well. But overall, this is the combination of not starting fast enough on the road. You can't fall back by 14 points, and you also can't manage a game like that late and expect to win. If you give CJ Stroud the ball, really any quarterback, you could give Deshaun Watson the ball at the 50-yard line, say you need to complete a couple passes to get a long field goal here, probably can do it.
And what does this say about the Bills? Because at the start of the year, we were saying, oh my gosh, the Bills actually look really good. Are they better without Stephon Diggs and without Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde and Tre'Davious White and these guys, are they better now because they beat the Cardinals, the Dolphins, and the Jags? Well, they've played two other contenders, legit contenders. They lost 35-10 against the Ravens. And in this game, it was close, 23-20. But again, Houston did control it. And Josh Allen played one of the worst games of his career. Didn't turn the ball over, but if you complete 30% of your passes, you have pretty much no chance of winning. So what does this say about the Bills, that that's how they look against the bad teams, but this is who they are against the good teams?
I think they're fine because of where they play. The AFC East is trash. The Jets are picked second right now. They have no chance of winning that division. The Bills are by far the strongest team in the division because they have an offense. And the fact that they have an offense makes them very dangerous. It's not going to be the Dolphins. Like the Dolphins are in second place right now in the division, which is scary. Even with Tua, they're not a championship contender. So I would say that you can't really tell what a loss like yesterday means because they're going to be in the playoffs as a division winner, and then we'll see what happens.
What do you think their odds to win the AFC East are?
Minus 250.
Pretty close. Minus 220.
Yeah, and that's just because of how bad everyone is.
I mean, the Patriots have no chance. The Dolphins have no chance now that Tua is out. And the Jets, again, I don't know why people thought Aaron Rodgers was the savior. It's a 40-year-old coming off of a torn Achilles, and he's basically with a new team that doesn't have that much talent on offense.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you bet the Jets to go under their win total, you're looking pretty good. What was it, 9.5? I think it was
9.5. Yeah.
So 10-7. This team's not going 10-7. At best case, they're 9-8. Best case.
Yeah, because that would make they would need to go 8-4 the rest of the year. That's not happening.
No, I mean we can go through it real quick. That's how we can conclude the show here, ending people's dreams of their Jets win totals. But I'm gonna take they're 2-3 right now. Lose to the Bills, right? 2-4.
Yep.
Let's give them a win against the Steelers, just because
and the Patriots.
Yeah, so 2-4, so 3-4. So they're 4-4 at the Patriots. So basically at the halfway point. You're gonna lose to the Texans. You're gonna be 4-5. Do they beat the Cardinals because the Cardinals defense is trash?
I think it's up in the air.
So let's say 5-5. Let's be generous with them. Colts at home. I'm gonna give them 6-5. You're gonna split between the Colts and the Seahawks. So let's say 6-6, right?
Yep.
And then you go beat the Dolphins 7-6.
Well, two is supposed to be back by then.
So you never know. But we're going to split them. We're going to give them a split with the Dolphins. So let's give them the first one. We'll call it a win. So that's 6-7. You're going to beat the Jaguars most likely. So you're 7-7. Probably beat the Rams 8-7.
And then you got Bills Dolphins to close the year.
You lose to the Bills, you're 8-8. You beat the Dolphins in the split, so you're 9-8. I think 9 wins is like best case scenario for this team.
Yeah, and again, that was with us being generous there. I think this is. Yeah. I think it's more likely 8-9 than 9-8. But even if it is 9-8, that's still an under on the win total.
Yeah, definitely. And Aaron Rodgers, he's one snap away from getting hurt. I thought he tore his ACL yesterday when he went down.
Oh, when he was crawling.
Yeah, I thought he tore his ACL, and then the roughing the kicker like revitalized him.
Well, yeah. So this is what I didn't understand. Also, the roughing the kicker thing just goes to show how much of a attention seeker Aaron Rodgers is, because he's walking into the medical tent and then the roughing the kicker happens and he goes back on the field. If he had an injury, if he was going to the medical tent, they're not letting him on the field. They don't let you do that anymore. So that was complete BS the whole time. When he went down holding his leg or whatever, he was holding his hamstring, and it's really, really difficult to get a contact hamstring injury. A non-contact hamstring, like a pulled hamstring, something like that, happens all the time. But when he went down on that play, what's going to happen? I mean, you played football, you've been around. How many guys do you know that hurt their hamstring because somebody hit them? It doesn't happen that often.
Or a running back like getting like hit. It's more probably a what's the front part?
The quad?
Quad injury, yeah. Quad or a side injury. Like just from getting hit, like pure contact. Yeah, but not much.
The bottom line was there. He definitely sold it like something bad was going on, and then he was fine by the next play.
He was trying
what?
He's trying to revitalize the troops, trying to give them a reason to rally and fight. I don't mind it. I don't like that. He looks like a heroic guy coming at like when as soon as the roughing comes, he just runs back on the field. I mean, it looks pretty cool.
The odds makers are listening to us, Tanner. They're listening to us about the comeback of the player of the year odds. Aaron Rodgers was, I believe, minus 120 at one point. If you look at DraftKings, he is down to plus 200, and Sam Darnold is right there. He's at plus 275.
So I would say that, well, Kirk's the favorite right now.
Kirk's at plus 400. He's in third.
All right. So honestly, I give it to Joe Burrow. You got to give him something the way he's playing
right now. He's
You
fourth
got to
right
give
now.
him something. I mean, Joe Burrow's been lighting it up. He's coming off a bad throwing injury where you couldn't throw before. I think Joe Burrow deserves it more than Rodgers. Darnold obviously has the great story, but should we give him the comeback player of the year just because he was like sucked throughout his entire career and now he's on a good team? Like, I don't know.
I think for me personally, I would go Darnold and then probably Kirk, and then I think Joe and DeMar are fighting for the third spot on my ballot.
They need to make a category for this award. It needs to be like the comeback player of the year story and then the comeback player from injury. I think that would be better. Like injury comeback of the year or something like that. And then
we talked about this last year because it was DeMar versus Flacco, and it was two completely different situations.
Yeah, and obviously the comeback player of the year over Joe Flacco is probably DeMar Hamlin just because he basically died. But as far as the story, but that's two stories there too. That's not really an injury. Well, I guess it is an injury, but DeMar Hamlin's becomes more than an injury, it becomes like a story. So it makes it hard.
It does make it hard. And I think there is a place for Sam Darnold. This is almost, Sam Darnold is almost like a most improved player, which they don't have. That's an NBA thing. That's really what Darnold is doing here, because you're right. He didn't suffer an injury or anything like that. He went to a bad situation. They didn't develop him and he just played horribly. Now he's in a good one and he's playing well.
Yeah, most improved would be good, because what did Darnold come back from? Like, he was trash a long time ago with the Jets. He's been a backup.
He was just out of sight, out of mind on the bench.
He's been a backup quarterback. So like, okay, so what's he coming back from? He stood his time. He's ready to play now. Like, if he does that in a year following, like if he's like, I'm seeing ghosts, and the next year he's like MVP level, that's a different story. So I think most improved would be good. Like, because then you could put Darnold there. Even last year with Flacco, you could have given Flacco most improved player last year, more than comeback player of the year, I would say, because I think DeMar Hamlin's probably the comeback player of the year last. He didn't play. Makes it hard.
Yeah, DeMar was the comeback player of the year. Alex Smith with Washington, like that's a comeback player of the year. Case closed. I think you're right. There is a need for a new award, and I think most improved makes sense.
Yeah, injury, story, or make it two, like, and separate two categories. But you got to do something, because they mix too much. Like, I don't put Kirk Cousins in the same category as Sam Darnold right now. Kirk Cousins got injured last year, but he was still putting up massive numbers before. So I'm assuming coming off an injury, he's still going to put up massive numbers. He never had a quarterback problem.
And at the same time, though, I put Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers in different, maybe not categories, but I look at them differently, because although they're same position coming off the same injury, Aaron Rodgers is a 4-time MVP. Kirk Cousins is somebody who he's been maligned because he can't perform in clutch. And by the way, if we're talking about the merits of their case this year, for Kirk to be third in comeback player of the year, he's always struggled in primetime. We've got to consider that he led that dramatic comeback against the Eagles in primetime, and then he just had another one with a walk-off touchdown at the end. So not only is he coming back to play well, but some of the stigma that is against him, he's overcoming it late in his career.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, a guy who's been a Pro Bowler should never be a comeback player of the year.
Well, but you just said Joe Burrow was your comeback player of the year.
Right now, if you're making the award, but like,
if we're
gonna make a comeback player of the year, though, let's make it like, don't give it out of the list right now. Let's not give it to Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, or Joe Burrow, like out of this list. And I know I just said out of the list, it would be Joe Burrow, but like Sam Darnold is probably, I guess, like this award would mean more to Sam Darnold than any of those other guys on the list. That's how I would say it. It would mean more to DeMar Hamlin than any guy on the list. Where if Aaron Rodgers won comeback player of the year this year, the trophy would literally he wouldn't care.
Nobody would either. Why should I care? Especially with it has to go with how they've been covered, I guess, and everything. But if we're right and the Jets go 8-9 and they miss the playoffs, they go under on their win total. Aaron Rodgers does not play well. What's the point of giving him comeback player of the year? He didn't. He came back to get on the field, but he underachieved.
Yep. No, it's a tough category. They need to figure. And DeMar Hamlin is the one who is shaking up the category. Like we probably not having this debate without the DeMar Hamlin situation from last year.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, that's a whole
because nobody cares about this award.
Pandora's box, like that opened us to a world that we just did not expect.
But anyways, Grant, take us out of here.
Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Taylor and I hope that you all appreciated it. Before you click on out of here, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Drop some comments to let us know who is going to win on Monday Night Football, the Chiefs or the Saints. We will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.